Hi, welcome to my stamping studio. I am Laura Sherwood, the Firefly Stamper. My desire is to light up one heart at a time through these paper creations and the cards that we make. I'm so glad you've joined me today. I live in Salisbury, New Brunswick, Canada, and my studio is one of my rooms in my house that I have converted to some shelving and some storage. And I love stamping. I love the ink. I love the stamps. I love the designer series paper. Today we're going to give you a sneak peek into my August classes. I have classes the second and fourth Wednesday of each month, and I have one class in the afternoon at 2:30. I have a second class in the evening at 6:30. And please send me off a message if you live near me, and I will certainly look after you and get you booked into a class. The classes are $10 for 3 cards. So a sneak peek into August stamps classes will be this little card that is so sweet. I really enjoy using the stamp set. It's a new stamp set, Plentiful Plants, and the die cuts that go with it. We're also using an embossing folder today, and it is the brick and mortar embossing folder. The designer series paper that I'm going to use, I'll give you a little sneak peek into. And mine is pretty cut up, but I'll show you what I have. The paper is delightful, and I love bringing these lovely houseplants back into our home through our cards. And now this side is wood grain, and I don't know if you can see that. It's very light, very nice. That is one side of the paper. This one here is all cut up because I've been using it and having so much fun. And the other side is a wood grain. And again, I'm not sure if you can see that. Very light. I like having that variety of the light paper and dark paper. Oh, here's a larger sheet. I guess I did have one sheet that was a little bit bigger. So I'm trying to get it so you can see that with the reflection of the light on it. We have a one that has this beautiful piece of paper, and then the back of it is the gray bricks, which is great. We have the wood grain on this side, and then this side is some plants. I love this piece. This is a lovely cardstock, and designer series paper, and you can cut it this way and then this way and make like 6 cards out of it, which is so fun. And then the reverse side is just a light gray pattern, as you can see there, and it is wonderful for the mixing and matching. And this is green plants with green background on one side and a brick pattern. This is what we're using today. I don't think I showed you this one with the potted plant pots, and then on the back a lovely gray design. So that is the designer series paper. I'm going to set this back over here out of the way. And that is one of the packages that is on sale, 15% off between now and August 2nd, I believe. You can check me out at my website. I work with Stamping Up, and you will find me, Laura Sherwood, when you do your search, Laura's Stamping Store. And I'd love to help you out. I'd love to add you to my classes. So it is wonderful that you've joined me. I think we will get started and make this lovely card. So here we are. I'll show you all the pieces first for this thank you card. The base of the card is basic white, and I'm just looking for which one is the base. This is 8.5 by 5.5, and then it's scored at 4 1/4. And of course, you'd use your bone folder to get that nice, nice flat surface. We are using the designer series paper, and this paper is 5 1/4 by 4. We're also using a piece of cardstock. Now there's 2 ways to do this, and you'll see as we put it on. This is 5 1/4 by 4. Now you can use the full piece if you're not comfortable with just using a small piece. And we're going to be putting this through the embossing folder. And as I mentioned, the embossing folder we're using is brick and mortar. And it actually, once you put it through, it looks like this. So I decided to take one piece of the cardstock that is 5 1/4 by 4 and cut it in half and just use part of it. And I'm going to put it behind like this. But if you wanted to use the full piece, you could. put it through your embossing folder and put it onto your card front, and then put this over after we tear it. So let's get started. We're going to be doing that. Oh, and I will mention my other pieces here just so you know. We're doing the stitched rectangles. So this is a stitched rectangle, as this one is as well. Obviously this is a smaller side in basic white, and this is cinnamon cider. We also need to have a scrap of the cinnamon cider in order to stamp the pot with cinnamon cider, and then use the die cut to cut it out. This is the piece that I would use to cut all my plant pieces. So I would stamp with old olive the leaves and this ivy that's hanging down. Crumb cake, have stamped already, or sorry, cut with the dies, and they're called the Perfect Plant dies. And this is crumb cake, so this is the crumb cake hanger. I'm using a gilded gem to put this on. As well, I am using dimensionals behind the thank you. So let's get started, and we will get our pieces stamped first off. And actually, first, I think what I'll do is I'm going to tear this paper. So my brick walls, again, some people aren't comfortable just using a piece because they're worried about it showing. And what I would do is just put my paper on like this over top, and then I would tear it. And that way I can see where I'm tearing it over my brick wall. And here we go as we tear it. And then I can see that my brick is going to be right there. And look at that, I can get away with using a piece by using it as the pattern in behind. So the first thing we're going to do is actually put these pieces, I'm going to put them together to glue them on. So we are going to do this, and I am going to just use little pieces of running tape here to get this on. Here we go. And probably not in the camera, I apologize. There we go. And I'm just using some of my stamp and seal just to get those put together. So there we go. And then I'm going to put that on here. And you can either use glue or you can use the stamp and seal. So I'm going to use the stamp and seal, of course, and put some stamp and seal on it. And as you see, when I'm running it, I'm going to run it down, and I just give that little flick, and it seems to help keep the glue runner in place. And that seems to work quite well for me. And one here. I might just put one there for good measure. All right. I'm going to put this on the front of our card. So here we go. Looking through the camera, trying to get this on straight. There we go. So there is our brick wall and our white bricks. And if you see this here, how dark that is along the side, which is really great because it actually emphasizes the fact that it's torn. But the color of this is actually because of how I tore the paper. The other side has that lovely green pattern, and you can see the darkness of that along the side, which I think is kind of a neat effect. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set my two stitched triangles together. So those are the the stitched rectangle dies that I used, and I am just going to put that on here to get it ready. There we go. So that is together. And then after I get that together, I am going to stamp my pieces that I need. So I will get my stamp set, which is right here. And I am going to get my leaves, and I'm going to get this lovely ivy effect here. And I'm going to get my block, and I think this will work. Yes, it will. And I am going to set that aside, and I'm going to get my old olive, and we're going to do some stamping. So here is my old olive. And so this is just the other half of the piece. So it saves a little bit of paper. Depends on how much you want to save paper. If you want to use the full amount on the the full amount on the card for the backing for the bricks, or whether you want to make good use of the card and do it this way. So I'm just going to wash have a simple chamois. I love my simple chamois. And just clean that stamp up, and I'm going to put it away so I don't lose track of it. And then I'm going to get my leaves, and I'm going to load that. Now, I should mention that for some, and I'm sitting here looking for here it is. It's good to have a good even surface underneath, and if you have any concerns about whether or not it is even, you can use one of these, this lovely cushioned pad from Stampin' Up. And I'm just going to put this down. It did stamp well though last time without it, as you saw. So there we go. And I love actually the effect, and it's quite a new stamp, and that may be why it's giving the kind of a speckled effect, but I happen to like that. And I'm going again. It's always good to wash your stamps right away. The simple chamois is very convenient. It looks fairly stained, which is great, still works great, but you just keep it wet and it'll take the ink off very easily. And then you just run them under water to wash them up. So that is that. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my dies, and I'm going to cut these out. And so this is the Perfect Plant dies. I'll open this up, and you'll be able to see them. So we have the Perfect Plant dies. There's the planter that I already cut out in the crumb cake. So we want this one, and we want this one that we're going to use for cutting out. So I'll just pause here, and I will go run those through my machine, just like that. I'll be right back. So I was able to get the plant pieces cut out. We had stamped those. I would have gone through the same procedure for stamping. On a little piece like this, I would have used the cinnamon cider on the cinnamon cider cardstock, and I would have used this particular stamp in my set, which is right here, and stamped it, and I cut it out all at the same time as I did these. So that one is completed. So the next thing I'm going to do is actually stamp the sentiment, and I'm using the Old Olive to stamp the sentiment. So I'll open that up, and it's nice with the photopolymer stamps, because you can actually see through and see if you're getting it the straight as possible. And I'm going to stamp this piece. Now you'll notice I have a nice cushion underneath it. Quite often with the photopolymer, those come in really handy, because if your surface happens to be a little uneven, then it'll affect how it stamps. So my table has been well used that I have. And I do have this cover over it for working, but it is good to have a nice even surface, and that seems to work well. All right, so there's that stamp done. Now I had already, sometimes I'll stamp it and then I will cut it, but I have already have this cut. And I am going to, and I already have my cinnamon cider piece cut. So when I put these together, you'll see it kind of makes a nice little frame around it. So I'm going to put these pieces together. Oops, want to make sure that you always put away your ink, because you don't want to dry it out. So I'm going to you can either use the Stamp and Seal, or you can use the glue, the liquid glue. All right. So there we go. I'm going to put this here. And again, you just want that little frame around it. You just, I used my paper cutter actually to cut this. So there we go. That piece is done. Then on the back, I'm actually going to put some dimensionals. I'm gluing my plant right onto the card, but you could put dimensionals on that as well if you wanted to, but I like the look of this one. So here we go. So this here, I'm not going to take that stickies off yet. I'm putting that right there. I want this paper to show on the side, and I'm going to put my plant together. Now I found it convenient to use the glue dots when I put my planter together and get a hold of my plants. And so I'm just going to take a glue dot right here, and I'm actually going to put the glue dot on the front at the bottom on my leaves, and I'll show you why. So when I build my plant, I have a glue dot here. I am going to put that in my planter, and there we go, it's going to stay in place. So I'm going to do the same thing with this. I'm going to actually put some glue dots on the front, and then I can build my planter so that it looks the way I would like. So I'm just going to put a glue dot on the front of here. There we go. I'm going to take my plant and think about how I want it to look. And I think I want it to be about like that. There we go. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take my actual little macrame, as it were, planter. They've come all back in vogue, that I've cut out with the planter, hanging planter die, and that's how it's going to go on the front. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit of my glue, and I'm going to take glue, and I'm just going to dot it around different places, just a little bit to hold it in place, and one up here. Then I'm going to put that together. So this is going on the front of my plant, and I'm going to go like this. There we go. And so that is going there. Then on the back of my lovely plant that I've built, I am actually going to put some glue. And I mean, you could use the runner too, but I just find it's just as easy to put glue on it. And up here, there we go. So there we have our planter coming together. Now, where is going to hang? I'm actually putting it at the white, up on the white, as if it's hanging. So there we go, and then down. So there's my little planter, all ready to go. Now I noticed I used 3 leaves on this one. I used the multi-leaf on this one, so whichever one works for you. Now I am gluing this directly onto here, but if you wanted to, you could actually use dimensionals to do that. And you can use your Stampin' Seal, or you can use your liquid glue. Both will work. So there's that. And when I put this on, as you see, I'm going to stagger it. And I want the ripped section to show some, so I'm going to put that over here, and there we go, and we have our planter in place. I'm going to use my pick tool, which I find very useful, and I'm going to take the backings off, and then I'm going to place this on the front, and I want the ripped edge to show, so I'm going to do it voila, like that. I use the gilded gems for the hook, as it were, on the planter, and I use the putty end and of my pick tool. I bring up get a gem, and then I'm putting it on the center, and there we go. That's all completed. Our card for the day, a little different than the first one because I used 2 different stamps and die sets, but it is gorgeous, and I hope you enjoyed this card. I hope you'll have a chance to try to make it, and as a reminder, this is one of our designer series papers that's on sale, and I believe it's till August 2nd, but you can go online to Stampin' Up, Laura Sherwood, Laura's Stampin' Store, and you can check that out. If you have any questions, I would always love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching today.